Hello and good day to you. My name is Kenise and welcome to Solar Vision. Today's topic is alchemy. Basically, I composed some notes as far as my thoughts about the subject, things that I've learned, I put into practice, and I don't know how long this is going to take. I might have to divide it up into parts, not sure. But the information that's entailed, this is for my people, far as the indigenous or original people upon the earth. It's for their enlightenment. So please do not get offended by any other information. So, as I said, today's topic is alchemy. When you say alchemy, most people immediately think about turning a base metal, such as lead, into gold. It's sad that most people can only fathom that mode of thinking. It seems that most people can only look at concepts that are outwardly. Although that is a form of alchemy, just as I mentioned, turning lead or a base metal into gold, it is the material, superficial form of the science. The greatest form of alchemy that has ever existed was a spiritual form of the science which was known to man, meaning the first man, our ancient ancestors, and it was used to transform the soul into its rightful place of existence, which is what some people deem God, or the divine source, or the higher self. When you look at the history of the true alchemy, which is spiritual alchemy, or some people might call it occult alchemy or esoteric alchemy, also referred to it in the Masonic lines as the Great Work, or finding the Philosopher's Stone. We find that its earliest presence was in ancient Kemet, or what we call modern day Egypt, but back then I guess it would have been known as ancient Egypt. We know that the word chem is both found in the words chemistry and alchemy. The ancient Egyptian ancestors were called Chemetians, and the land was called the land of Chem. Chem means black. So our ancestors let us know, not just by the hieroglyphics, or what we call the meta-nature, left in stone on the temple walls, on the pyramid walls, and the pictures of themselves, that they were a dark hue or dark black race of beings. They told us, through their name, they called themselves and the naming of the land mass, being Kim, that they were a black people and a black nation upon that landmass. I do understand the arguments also about the land being or having, rich black soil in the area, but that was not the original sole intent of the word Kim. They named themselves Kemites to let people know without a shadow of a doubt that they were a black race of beings. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, the word chemistry, according to modern man's science, can be defined as a branch of science that deals with the structure and properties of substances and with the changes that they go through. This is Merriam-Webster's online dictionary definition. Merriam-Webster also defines alchemy as the goal of changing ordinary metals into gold, or transforming something in a mysterious or impressive way. Both of these definitions are very interesting. Now, let's look at the context of who we are as the so-called black race and a true definition of Chem. Whether you spell it Khem, Kem, Chem, it does mean black. And we blacks know that our hue or skin tone comes from the existence of us having a darker shade of melanin or the melanocytes that are within us. Melanin is a carbonic substance in so-called black people. And so we can safely say that we are carbon beings, not carbon-based beings. We are directly carbon beings. So truthfully, the more correct version of the definition of chemistry would be the science and study of melanin or carbon, which is the substance that the universe is composed of and that our vessels are also made of as well. And we can also safely say that alchemy would be the transformation of turning the dark substance in our body called melanin into the golden elixir by raising up the mundane physical existence into a mental platform where you do the work to become the God that you truly are versus thinking that you are only a mundane human. And when I mean human, I am putting the E on that. Hueman. That's what I mean. Not just Human. We also can say it is through opening the third eye, which should be called the primal or first eye, to go within ourselves to know that you are the true God and goddesses of the universe. By doing this, you become what some people would like to call the golden child, or the soul that has been enlightened or illuminated, Let's put it that way. Now, the word alchemy contains the word al, or al, and is synonymous, with el or el, which in the Arabic and Hebrew Semitic languages means God or the mighty one. So, in essence, alchemy or alchemy means the black God or the black mighty one, which tells us, the indigenous original races, that the so-called black races are divine beings, and we can reach our divinity through raising ourselves up through utilizing the concepts of spiritual alchemical processes. The work of science has been attributed to, the work of this science called alchemy has been attributed to the ancient Egyptian god Tahuti, or whom some people call Thoth, and later called Hermes Trismegistus. Now, we do know that the Greeks stole, as well as learned, pretty much all, if not everything, far as this religious and spiritual knowledge from the ancient black Egyptians. Tahuti was known as the god of knowledge, wisdom, the god of magic, the god of writing, the developer of the arcane sciences, and a wise judge of the dead. He also has other things attributed to him, such as the god of medicine, and etc. Alchemy was a sacred divine art that was used for soul transformation. Later on in history, when alchemy was introduced to the non-indigenous races, or the so-called Europeans, amongst others, these races looked at the science of alchemy mainly as a means to profit financially by only looking at it as a means to produce gold from ordinary base metals. They could not see the soul value, SOUL, okay? Not SOLE, the actual soul value, or what some deem as the spiritual value in its system, because they naturally, due to their genetic composition, having a lack of the original cosmic substance, which is a darker hue, HUE, of melanin. We know that the pineal gland secretes melatonin, which activates the pituitary gland. The melanocytes is what produces our melanin. The so-called black race is born with an active pineal gland, while the other races' pineal glands are either calcified or not as active as the black races of people. The pineal gland is the third eye, or what some deem as the inner eye. An active, uncalcified pineal gland makes you more spiritual or more in tune with the divine source or the divine light. The pineal gland produces and secretes serotonin and melatonin. The person that practices spiritual alchemy is primarily focused on their own inner divine light. Alchemy is focused on soul regeneration to bring the practitioner back to its original God state before we fell for the lie of the physical outwardly shell being the true self. We are human beings. And again, I mean HUEMAN. Hue, meaning melanated or color. Gods in amnesia. While we should be gods having a human experience on this 3D dimensional plane that we reside in. As great tragedies such as invasion, conquests, colonizations by people other than that of the indigenous original races occurred, our sciences began to get stumped out, and some of us were persecuted by these invaders or foreigners when we tried to practice our ancient arcane sciences or spiritual systems. Institutions of religions then became a huge, gigantic stumbling block for our ancient ancestors. And it also kept them from truly knowing thyself. I guess we can safely say that religion is the spiritual player hater. There are many different ways of attaining soul transformation through the process of spiritual alchemy. And this site is dedicated to your enlightenment so that you can ultimately transcend this 3D matrix to move on to higher planes and dimensions of existence. Besides, who wants to relive this nightmare on this 3D plane that we're on? Remember, as above, so below. As within, so without. So, we will also be discussing techniques as well on this channel to gain higher forms of consciousness, to transform the mundane spirit into the soul God that it once was before we forgot who we are. And again, subscribe to the channel. And I want to say namaste, family, and peace.